For our high school graduation trip, Grace, our class princess, gave us 3 different itineraries. In my first life, we chose Route A. The tour bus plummeted off a mountain pass. The vehicle was pulverized, and not a single soul survived the impact. In my second life, we went with Route B. A head-on collision wiped out the entire class. Grace was the sole survivor. In my third life, we opted for Route C. A tire blowout caused a devastating rollover. Most of the class walked away with scratches, but Grace and I died on the spot. Now, my eyes snap open. Grace is leaning forward, her chin propped on her hands, smiling sweetly at me. So, Hannah, which one do you want to pick? Before I can even open my mouth, the others chime in. Why are you asking her? She's a charity case. Probably hasn't even crossed state lines. What would she know about a vacation? Yeah, just choose Grace. If she complains, I'll shut her up myself. On the morning of the trip, when they do the head count and realize I'm missing, Grace calls me in a panic. Hannah, where are you? The whole bus is waiting for you. I am sitting on the terrace of a boutique resort at the foot of the mountain, leisurely sipping an iced latte. I'm already here. This time they can keep their death trap of a bus. I'm going to sit back and watch exactly who pays the price. 1. At our post-finals dinner, the table was buzzing with talk about the trip. Hannah, I asked you a question. Why are you spacing out? Leonard asked, crossing his arms and looking at me with cold irritation. I looked up, meeting his eyes. For a split second, all I saw was his crushed, blood-soaked body pinned beneath the rusted frame of a bus. Grace slid over, draping her arm over my shoulder, her eyes sparkling. Hannah, you're the class president. Your opinion is super important to us. I looked at her. Her smile was still effortlessly beautiful, sweet enough to rot your teeth. But I couldn't stand the sight of it anymore. I looked down, surreptitiously checking my arms and torso. No broken bones. No exposed organs. I exhaled a long, shaking breath. I was back. The 4th time. In my first life, Route A ended on jagged rocks. I still remembered the copper smell of blood on the dirt, the silent, terrible carnage hanging over the cliffside. In my second life, Route B ended in a metal-on-metal scream. Grace was the sole survivor, but the internet turned on her, hounding her with cyberbullying until she jumped off her apartment balcony. In my third life, Route C ended in a violent roll. Almost everyone walked away with minor scratches, except Grace and me. We died on impact. 3 times. I had died 3 distinct, agonizing deaths. The phantom pain still clawed at my chest. I couldn't do this anymore. I gently slid Grace's hand off my shoulder. I'm not going. The table went dead silent for a second, then erupted. What do you mean? The class president is ditching. This is a once-in-a-lifetime trip, Hannah. Why do you always have to be so painfully antisocial? Grace blinked, her voice soft and maternal. Hannah, is there something holding you back? If you have any worries, we can totally change the plans. I looked straight into her clear, deceptive eyes. I am not going. Have fun, but leave me out of it. Grace's smile stiffened. Leonard scowled. Hannah, don't be a killjoy. Grace spent weeks putting this together. Can't you just support her for once? Leonard, my next-door neighbor since we were kids. He was brilliant, ridiculously handsome. The guy half the girls in our grade secretly cried over. I used to be one of them, but once I realized his heart belonged to Grace, I had forced myself to get over it. The weather forecast for the mountain pass looks brutal, I said, trying one last time to warn them. Honestly, if you want my advice, none of you should go. They burst into laughter. Are you serious? It's a road trip, not a horror movie. Typical Hannah, class president to the end, trying to micromanage our lives. Leonard's jaw set. Hannah, can you stop with the dark, dramatic warnings? Everyone is excited. Why do you always have to rain on our parade? I let out a quiet sigh. Fine. Everyone has their own cross to bear. In my third life, when only Grace and I lay dying in the wreckage and the paramedics arrived, Leonard had grabbed a first responder by the coat. "Save Grace first," he'd screamed. Nobody argued. In the end, they threw a massive candlelit vigil for Grace. Nobody even mentioned my name. "Go if you want," I said, gathering my things. "I'm just telling you where I stand." The dinner was wrapping up, and I stood to leave. But Grace suddenly caught my wrist, her eyes swimming with performative sympathy. "Hannah, is it a money issue? I heard your dad is just a security guard and your mom is, well, she has a disability. If things are tight at home." She caught herself, clapping a manicured hand over her mouth. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That was so insensitive of me. I didn't mean to blurt that out. The room filled with hushed, venomous murmurs. "No wonder she never comes to parties. She's dead broke. She probably only studies so she can escape her trashy life." I looked down, not out of shame, but to hide the hysterical laugh bubbling in my throat. MY Dad did work in private security as the CEO and owner of a firm with over 2,000 contractors. My mother had a mobility impairment, yes, but her oil painting sold for 6 figures at elite galleries in New York. We lived quietly because my parents despised flashing their wealth. But how did Grace find out about my family? I cast a cool glance at Leonard. He instantly shifted his gaze, looking guilty. I see. He gossiped about me to Grace, desperate to distance himself from the poor girl who used to crush on him. "Let me make this clear one last time," I said, looking directly at Grace. "I am not going. Do not put me on the list." Grace bit her lip, tears welling up. Leonard wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Don't worry about her, Grace. Just book it. We're all behind you." The rest of the table nodded eagerly. Grace pointed to Route C on the flyer. "Let's do Route C then. We can hike and go whitewater rafting. Just Venmo me the $150 and I'll book the group rate." Phones started chiming with transaction notifications. I didn't move. Grace walked over, looking hurt. "Hannah, you haven't sent it. Did you want me to cover you? I'd love to help, but I'm just a student too, and I can't keep spending my parents' money." The room turned on me instantly. "Are you kidding me, Hannah? She's doing all the work and you expect a free ride." Unreal. Some people are just shameless. I set my bag down and looked up at Grace, my face completely expressionless. "When did I say I was going?" Grace blinked. "I told you 4 times I'm not going," I said, enunciating every word. "Are you deaf?" Leonard snatched my phone off the table. He knew my PIN. He'd watched me unlock it during our AP study sessions. Ding. Transaction complete. $150 sent. He tossed the phone back onto the table like a piece of garbage. "Stop acting like you're above everyone else," he sneered, his disgust entirely undisguised. "If you keep acting this toxic, don't expect me to look out for you when we get to college." I picked up my phone. I said, "I'm not going. Keep the cash if it makes you feel better, but my seat will be empty." I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked toward the exit. Behind me, Grace burst into tears. "She's doing this on purpose. She hates me." Leonard pulled her close. "Don't cry. I'll make sure she goes." The others nodded aggressively. "Don't worry, Grace. If she tries to flake, we'll drag her by her hair." Yeah, we're not letting her ruin the class spirit. Class spirit. What a joke. 2. The moment I walked through the front door of my house, my parents rushed toward me. My mom threw her arms around me, sobbing instantly. "Hannah, oh thank God you're home." My dad's eyes were bloodshot, his voice thick with unshed tears. "You're okay. You're okay." I froze, the realization washing over me. "Mom? Dad? You guys?" "Yes, honey," my mom said, wiping her face as she leaned heavily on her cane. "We remembered. We went through it too. Listen to me, Hannah. You cannot go on that graduation trip. Under no circumstances. I nodded slowly. Don't worry. I have no intention of going. My mom let out a ragged sigh of relief, but the anxiety still hung thick in her eyes. Why don't we go somewhere else? Just the three of us. Aspen? Maui? We can leave tomorrow and stay for a week. My dad chimed in. Yes, I'll clear my schedule at the firm. I'll drive us. Anywhere you want to go, sweetheart. I look at their anxious, loving faces, and a deep warmth bloomed in my chest. Let's wait. Let's wait until the standardized test scores come out, and then we'll go with a clear head. I didn't spell out my deeper fear. After 3 consecutive fatal accidents, I didn't know if the curse lay in the bus, the route, or the day itself. I needed to bypass all the variables entirely. The next morning, Grace posted an announcement in our group chat. We're leaving in 3 days. Everyone meet at the school gates at 7:30 a.m. sharp. She added a voice note. We should go before the scores are released. That way, even if someone didn't do great, it won't ruin the vibe. The chat filled with praise. Grace, you're literally an angel. Yeah, once the scores drop, half of us will be too depressed to pack a bag. Team Grace all the way. I scrolled through the messages, completely detached, until Grace tagged me. At Hannah, 7:30 a.m. in 3 days. Don't be late. I didn't reply. A few minutes later at Hannah, did you see this? Don't pretend you forgot. Still, I ignored it. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Leonard. I picked up, and his voice was thick with irritation. Hannah, what is your problem? Grace tagged you twice. Are you blind? I saw it. Then why aren't you replying? Because I don't want to. Leonard took a sharp, angry breath, trying to control his temper. Grace just called me crying. Are you seriously trying to humiliate her? Every single person in our class replied, except you. I pinched the bridge of my nose. He was doing it again, using that demanding, accusatory tone. If our parents weren't old friends, I would have blocked his number years ago. Leonard, I've told you, I am not going. Hannah, his voice barked through the receiver. We're a class. Why do you always have to be the odd one out? If you hated the 3 options so much, you should have suggested a 4th. I didn't hate them. Then why won't you go? I just don't want to. A cold, mocking laugh echoed from the other end. You really think you're something special, don't you? Playing hard to get, acting like some brooding outsider just to get my attention? You think this makes me want you? My jaw tightened. How did I ever fancy this arrogant idiot? When I didn't reply, his voice dropped to a chilling threat. You're just making yourself look pathetic, Hannah. I'm telling you right now, you will be on that bus. End of story. He hung up. I almost wanted to laugh. He actually thought this was about him. Delusional. Free. With only 24 hours left before the trip, the group chat was booming. I remained a ghost. I was waiting to see how this timeline tried to force my hand. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Leonard standing on our porch. We need to talk, he said, looking slightly uneasy. About tomorrow. I leaned against the doorframe, refusing to let him inside. I've made my position very clear. Instead of arguing, he pulled out his phone and hit play on a video. I looked at the screen, and my blood ran ice cold. In the video, my mother was sitting in her wheelchair near the entrance of our high school. Grace was standing directly behind her, her hands resting heavily on the rubber handles. Mrs. Clark, thank you so much for coming down to see us off, Grace said, looking directly into the lens with a bright, manic grin. Hannah, your mom is here. Aren't you coming? With a sickeningly sweet smile, Grace gently nudged the wheelchair forward. Just a little more pressure, and the chair would roll down the curb, right into the 4-lane, high-speed traffic of the main road. My hand started to shake against my phone. My mother had told me this morning that Leonard's mother had invited her out for coffee. I never imagined Grace would lay such a trap. I looked up at Leonard, my eyes burning with rage. You lured my mother out there? Leonard's expression stiffened for a fraction of a second before smoothing over. Lured? What are you talking about? We just invited your mom for coffee so Grace could meet her. Grace is really into art, you know. I shoved the phone screen right in his face. Look at her hands. What is this supposed to be? If I don't show up, is she going to push my disabled mother into oncoming traffic? Leonard glanced at the screen and frowned, clearly annoyed. You're being paranoid. It's just a joke. A joke. The anger in my chest was suffocating. Leonard, my mom practically raised you when your parents were working. How can you stand there and defend this? Why do you always have to bring up the past? Leonard muttered, dismissing it with a wave of his hand. Just go on the trip. Support Grace. It's better for everyone. I looked at him. I had known this boy for 12 years. 12 years. And suddenly, I was looking at a complete stranger. I drew a slow, shuddering breath. Feeny, I'll go. Leonard's eyes lit up. See? Was that so hard? He held out his palm. Give me your driver's license and passport. I stared at him, bewildered. Excuse me? Just to make sure you don't flake tomorrow morning. A guarantee. I was trembling with rage. He was holding my official documents hostage, but with my mother's safety on the line, I couldn't risk defying them. I turned around, grabbed my wallet and passport from the drawer, and slapped them into his hand. Leonard tucked them into his jacket pocket, looking thoroughly pleased with himself. Great, I'll give them back when we get to the resort. He reached out as if to pat my shoulder, but I flinched away. His hand froze in midair, a flash of annoyance crossing his face. See you tomorrow. As he walked down our driveway, I heard him dialing Grace. It's done. Grace's laughter leaked through the speaker. I knew you could handle her. Your idea worked perfectly. So, it was his idea. A hollow, bitter laugh escaped my throat. I really, truly misjudged him. The moment he was out of sight, I called an Uber and sprint to the high school. By the time I arrived, Grace was gone. My mother was sitting safely in the air-conditioned security guard booth. When we got home, I told my father everything. He slammed his fist onto the dining table. We're calling the police. Right now. I gently caught his hand. It won't work, Dad. She hasn't done anything illegal yet. If the police show up, they'll just question her and let her go. It'll only make her more desperate. My father's fists trembled with rage. So, we just let her get away with this? My eyes were cold and clear. They want me on that trip? Fine, I'll go. No! Both of my parents shouted in unison. My mother grabbed my hands, her palms sweaty. Hannah, that bus is a death trap. You'll die. I know, I said softly, which is why I'm not taking the bus. We're going to change the game. I laid out my plan. When I finished, the room was dead silent. Are you sure about this? My dad asked. I nodded. This loop has to end. My parents shared a long, heavy look before finally nodding. If anything looks off, you run, my mother whispered. Forget the evidence. Just stay alive. I will. 4. If I was going, I was doing it on my own terms. No cursed bus. No cursed route. No cursed morning departure. That very afternoon, my dad packed my bags into his SUV and drove me directly to the mountain resort. I checked into the penthouse suite, which boasted a stunning panoramic view of the very peak we were supposed to climb. The next morning at 7 a.m., I walked down to the resort terrace, ordered a full brunch spread, and enjoyed my coffee under the morning sun. My phone started buzzing. The group chat was alive. We're on the road. Is everyone here? So excited. Grace sent a sweet voice note. Don't worry, guys. I'm just doing a quick head count. Hannah, are you here yet? She tagged me. I took a slow sip of my coffee and left it on read. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Grace's voice was tight with a frantic, sharp edge. Hannah, it's 7:25. Everyone is on the bus. Where are you? I swallowed a piece of smoked salmon. I'm already here. The line goes completely quiet for a beat. What? She asked, as if she didn't hear me correctly. I said, I'm already here, sitting on the terrace of the resort, having brunch. That's impossible, her voice cracked. The bus hasn't even left the school. How could you be there? My dad drove me up last night. You guys take your time. No rush, I'll be waiting. Another long silence. When Grace spoke again, her voice was strained, her sweet facade cracking. Hannah, stop playing games. Where are you really? I'm not playing. Want me to FaceTime you? I hung up and immediately started a video call on her screen. My classmates were gathered in front of the school bus, bags packed. On my screen, I showed her my father sitting across from me, the mountain peaks towering in the background, the gourmet breakfast spread, and the luxury resort logo stitched into the linen napkin. I waved cheerfully. See you guys soon. The classmates crowded around Grace's phone, and the audio picked up their frantic whispering. Wait, she's already there? Look at those keys on the table. Is that a Porsche SUV? Oh my God, is Hannah actually loaded? Why are we still waiting then? Let's get moving. They started climbing onto the bus. On the screen, Grace's face went through a terrifying transformation from pale white to a furious, blotchy red, and finally to a sickly, dark purple. Suddenly, her carefully constructed mask shattered completely. She screamed into the camera, her face contorting into something hideous and wild. Hannah, are you fucking doing this on purpose?